the realm of those characters. They come out.
Sure.
And that's okay. And one thing and it's natural in this, especially in the blockchain where they can just take your idea and fucking carbon copy. But one thing that was really important to the Olympus team when I was with them is that, and still is until this day, I can definitely echo that, is that we didn't want to focus or give attention to the negatives, regardless of the damage that some of these forks were doing by manipulating the initial idea behind what we were doing. We didn't want to even give them the spotlight. And it was difficult to try to keep that under wraps because you put your life into this thing and you're working your ass off.
Sure.
And you give your genius and then somebody just comes, snatches it up, shits on it. That hurts, right? That's an emotional human reaction. That fucking sucks. So, you get that side of it. So you have some individuals who are personally hurt and you have to learn to remove yourself from that and go, okay, keep your nose down to the grindstone and keep building, keep shipping or whatever it is we're doing at the time and stay focused in the goal here because the bad actors will wash themselves out as we've seen. And the good actors are still within the ecosystem and building.
Welcome to Mission DeFi with Brad Nickel, where we explore projects in decentralized finance that are innovating and driving our mission of financial freedom forward. Thank you for listening. If you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, and review Mission DeFi and spread the word by posting a tweet to the show. All opinions expressed by Brad Nickel or his guests are their opinions and do not reflect the opinions of Black Knox, Material Indicators, or any other affiliated organizations. You should not treat any opinion expressed by Brad Nickel or his guests as an inducement to make a particular investment, follow a particular strategy, or become involved with any project. A project being featured on the show is not an endorsement of that project in any way. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Now, here's Mission DeFi with Brad Nickel.
Today's guest is Fatty Bags from Olympus DAO, where he was formerly helping to run marketing for that unbelievably large DAO with a very unbelievably active community. I wanted to get insights from him on what other projects can learn from the Olympus DAO experience, not only the beginning stages when they were first getting things together, but also all the way through the process of growth, of choosing people, of how to set up the organization, of operations, of strategies, and then what the experience was like when the cascading liquidations happened for Olympus DAO. We got into that and a whole lot more with some really incredible life experience that Fatty brings to the table for everyone to learn from. So hope you enjoy this episode. I learned a ton from Fatty, and I'm sure you will as well. And I think the entire ecosystem can continue to learn from people that are already doing the things that everyone else is trying to do.
First off, thanks, man, for having me on. I really wanted to step up the cadence of this because I feel like there is a wealth of knowledge that I've gained even over the last year that it could help a lot of people in these startup situations within DAOs, within the DeFi community, and how not to trip over their shoelaces.
Right.
So that's a big thing because what we did, I'll step back a little bit and give you a rundown on what kind of brought me to the space and where I started. What we did with Olympus was really a huge amount of learning or building the ship while flying and seeing parabolic growth and just absolute insanity. And then also trying to keep it all together when you're flooded with so much talent that recognizes something super cool and they want to be part of it as well and also contribute, which we've made amazing connections over the course of that time. But yeah, we could totally deep dive into that, but I'll rewind a little bit, give you a little backstory on mother and father, polar opposites. We'll go way back. My dad was in the Vietnam War. Mom was a hippie, actually protesting the war. So
Wow.
Dad had a rough life growing up. He was an orphan. He ended up going over to Vietnam at 16 years old. He was there. He lied about his age or whatever it was at the time. And his home life was so bad that it was like
An escape. Yeah.
yeah, he found purpose. So he went over there, and my dad is the hardest working. He's in his 70s now, and that dude could still whoop my ass. Excuse my French. He's an animal. Like, it's there.
My dad, it's crazy.
It's crazy, man. It's they don't stop working, so they stay healthy. It's
Yeah.
like I think there's something to take from that. His physical endurance is just mad. And he went over there. He had a hell of a lot of crazy experiences and cool stories. And maybe on another podcast I can share some of those because they're fucking mind-boggling.
Nice.
But so he came back, met my mom actually at a gold mine. They were both working, and my mom was just jacked, ripped, bending pipe, and just she was just this, it was super hardcore. She was a single mom at the time. Her husband had left her, and she had my half sister. So they met, they hit it off. My dad was a schmoozer, kind of like me, and he won her over. And from there, they had me, and I had a little sister. And from there, we traveled around. My father taught transcendental meditation, so he leaned into his hippie side. He went over.
Nice.
Done a bunch of TM stuff, which was really cool. And then as we got older, I was actually raised on a Hindu compound, so I was like exposed to a lot of really cool religion and ideas and perspectives. And it helped me build to where I'm at today, where I've picked and pulled different things I've liked from different religions or aspects of society and build out who I am. Fast forward to, I think it was around 2015, dude. It's been so long. I got into like the Bitcoin mining side of things. Like I had some buddies that were like, we'd known each other. We were like the stoner skateboarder guys from high school, middle school. And then we did our own thing. And I get a call one day and my buddy's like, dude, you got to get into this cryptocurrency. And of course, in the beginning, everyone's the hell is that, dude? Like digital money, like, didn't make any fucking sense. So after pestering me enough, they got me in on it. And they started I remember specifically walking into this dude's apartment, and he had a bunch of these milk crates, like those like red milk crates, with GPUs and exposed motherboards. And the fucking place was like 300 degrees. I walked in, I'm going, oh my God, this place is going to catch on fire, dude. You're in an apartment, number one.
Holy shit.
What's your electrical bill, dude? So he's over here doing his mining gig, and I put some money into it very tentatively at the time because I was trying to figure out life and just doing different entrepreneurial kind of things, trying to start up businesses. E-commerce, I think, was at the time where I was like getting into the idea of selling stuff online. But nonetheless, they got me to invest a little bit. I had some money in it. They had quite a bit more Bitcoin accumulated, and we got rugged. I think it was, I don't remember when the Mt. Gox rug happened. My timeline might be a little off, but we lost everything from Mt.
Oh, dude.
You remember this?
Of course.
Yes. So
that's brutal.
So it was really like the first rug experience that like we on a mainstream level, like quote unquote mainstream at the time.
Yeah.
And it was gone. So
that's that thing that keeps coming back to you, and you think about, you count up those Bitcoins in your head, and you're like,
I don't like thinking about it because I'm just like, it makes me sick.
That's brutal.
A small fraction of what we were doing would have equated to a huge amount of wealth. You know, I laughed it off. At the time, I was like pissed. I was like, all right, I put some money into this shit. I believed in you guys. And now this stuff just like disappeared. What the hell is that? So I completely denounced crypto.
I'm sure.
This is some hogwash bullshit, and you guys can deal with it. I'm going to go focus on real life shit. And at the time, whether that was working for the man or it was doing whatever, trying to come up with my own company. Fast forward, I kind of was a investor, if you would. I'd buy like little projects that had hype in the media or the news, whether it was Ethereum or at the time, I think I saw XRP or some shit. There was a couple things where I'd put like a couple grand where I could afford it here and there. And then I just forgot about it. So we were very low stress investing, which is nice compared to today where it's one day and you're like, oh my God, did I lose everything?
So true.
You know, it was so low stress. I wish it was like, I almost wish I just kept doing that. But to me, it was like crypto is not going anywhere. It's always going to be here in one way, shape, or form. Regulations will change. Things will change. The ebb and flow is going to happen.
Yeah.
But we're just going to ride the wave and figure out what happens. Fast forward, let's get to a more present time. I'd say about last year, I had a buddy that was in a mutual Discord server, and he's, man, have you heard of Olympus? And at this time, I was just Ethereum maxi in that sense, and just like very lightly touching into the crypto space and keeping my distance from being burned before.
But were you like diving into DeFi at all at that point, or were you just buying tokens and
just buying tokens and like maybe skimming the surface of DeFi in the sense of just didn't really, it felt like a dark shadow coder kind of realm because I just didn't have that experience yet. And so I talked to my boy, and then almost an interesting filter into DeFi in a sense. If you look at it from a normie quote unquote perspective or a greenhorn or a newbie, it's very overwhelming. You're looking at things like bonding mechanics.
I was going to say, that's a hell of a first
It's a
project.
hell of a dive, right? So, but traditionally in my life leading up to this point, I had a lifetime of marketing experience, corporate gigs, a consultation, startups, entrepreneurial endeavors, those kind of things. And I understood and loved the psychology of human beings and how to amass a lot of, how to extract value from a lot of people or provide value and thus extracting value from those people, et cetera. So like this whole mindset kind of was always with me. And then I saw Olympus, I dove in, I started to throw some money in it. And sure enough, my buddy's like, we're printing fucking money. This is amazing. And it's working. I'm going, oh shit, I'm seeing my token value go up. This money has not disappeared like Mt. Gox yet or anything of that matter. So I timidly continued to pump money into it and do my research. So hanging out in Olympus in the early days, I'm not sure if you're familiar or not with, there was a channel Off Topic. So big shout out to all the people in Off Topic. It was just a total shit fest, my friend. It was literally shit posting, degenerate, and brilliant people. Don't get me wrong, like really amazingly brilliant people and super kind people as well. I remember the first time I came in there, I fucked up and am I allowed to curse on that?
Of course.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. I just wanted to make sure I fucked up and I didn't have enough gas or something because you had to approve a transaction. You had to stake it. You had to stake the coin that you'd purchased. And I was off by $5 or something. And at the time, the Ethereum gas was like up and down. And I had just voiced it in chat. I go, oh, did I fuck this up or is something screwed up? Because it's asking me to pay again. And I was learning at the time.
Sure.
And Jawz, one of the guys, protocol, he sends me a message. He's give me your Ethereum address. And I was like, why? And I give it to him and he sends me like $120 per day. But that on me and nothing. So he had purchased my loyalty in a way. If you think back to the logical manner, it was a super smart play, but it was also very genuine because the dude was cool. He was like, this is just starting. There's not a ton of people here. Let's make sure you guys have a comfortable experience coming in.
Nice.
So from there, I was like, this is super weird. Like I joined a Discord of all these degenerate, hilarious people posting memes that are like gut busting and they're all friendly. People are teaching me trading strategies and like how you swing trading and day trading and scalping and all this other stuff. And I'm learning in this environment. And then on top of that, I got people who are just sending me a little bit of money to make sure that I don't fuck up and I learn how to use the protocol. Bro.
That's amazing, man.
For me, bro, that was like, okay, cool. This might be family. This might be a really cool place to hang out. And so I did.
Absolutely.
So I stuck with them. And I started to dive in more and really just explore DeFi and pick people's minds and really just I wanted to know what I could know because I saw there's like a wealth of knowledge here. And then on top of that, this is like a gold rush. Like we're early. We're still early. Of course. In this conversation, we're early in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And so I started to dig in and then there was this, I believe it was Zeus and a couple of the other guys were like, hey, we're thinking about making a DAO where the community can contribute. And from that, we can hopefully build out, either services or we can just advance this protocol in a way that's healthy for everybody that's involved. And I thought, okay, cool. I've never been part of a decentralized autonomous organization ever.
Right.
DAO was so new. And I'm like, this is cool as shit. Okay, let's see what happens. They start to assemble this for literally from the ground up. And I don't think any of us really knew what we were doing at the time. We just had an idea.
I'm not sure anybody in DeFi knows what they're doing at this time.
I know. I think that we're all doing our best. Which is wonderful. But so we started to build this DAO out and it wasn't just me by any means. It was a conglomerate of brilliant minds and creative people. And it started with the very fundamentals, which is like Discord was like our setup. So from Discord, you have to build rooms. And from these rooms, these channels, quote unquote, you have different kinds of material or partnerships, or you have just different themes in each one that need to be catered to.
Sure.
And each one of them is a process within the DAO or the protocol. So as we got this thing assembled, or we started to assemble it, that's when you start to see the shit where it's like, oh, we need this now. It's not necessarily a problem, but it's a need. And it's okay, so how do we implement that? And early on, you go, do we have enough bodies to even do that? Is there enough people in here that know what's going on? So when it first started up, I wrote up a long marketing proposal for Olympus. And I said, the real bread and butter here and how this is, we're gonna find adoption. There's a couple things. One, we need to increase adoption of the current DeFi realm. So we need to bring people in and we need to make them feel like they're at home. And to me and my heart, community. how do we reinforce and bolster the community and create a home or a fun place that people go to, just like Off Topic, which was really the hub at the time,
Sure.
to just shit post with your friends and maybe decompress after your meet space and be happy to be possibly making money with your friends,
Right.
or at least sharing strategies and ideas. My proposal really focused on fragmenting the actual investor acquisition, if you want to call it, or just acquisition of customers, or however you want to look at it, into three different parts, which was like a greenhorn, a novice, and a veteran, right? And you look at the greenhorns as people who have no fucking clue what's going on in DeFi. And really they really need to be hit hard with education. And they need to really look into this in a way that is simplified and it can't be overwhelming and it needs to be easily digestible and distilled down in a format that makes sense to somebody who's like never opened a fucking MetaMask. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's what I meant by greenhorn. The veterans are the dudes that were in it and still learning, but yet we're a little bit more advanced. They can navigate around. And then of course, the novice, and then the veterans are the dudes that were just boom, they were the guys leading the charge. They knew what the hell was going on. They had the crazy strategies and they were like a step ahead of everyone. So I think by focusing on those three demographics, it was really important because it allowed for us then to, as in a way where we could acquire those individuals and educate and bring them on board and grow the protocol.
Yeah,
So
that's
that was
really smart breakdown. I like that targeting.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And it made sense. So we stuck with really community oriented, the FOMOs, and it wasn't just my marketing. I don't take full credit for any of this. It was really a group of people who came together and said, hey, I agree with that thought, Fatty. Here's my 2 cents on that. What do you think? And vice versa. And we bounced these ideas around until we all said, hey, that's actually sick. And everyone's brilliant in the space. That's something I like to add when I talk about DAOs is like, to get here, you got to be smart in one way, shape, or form. You can't be a complete bumbling fool. And there are some, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, it's like everyone that comes into this space has a sliver of genius at the very least. And that should be identified, recognized, and respected. It was really wonderful to start with this proposal. So I broke that down. Zeus was really blown away by it. And in a sense, he was like, hey, this is some big brain thinking, man. I think you'd be a great addition. And eventually that evolved to me becoming the Marketing Stratego. And I came in, and Stratego, for listeners and whoever might not know, it's just like project lead. It's just really the director of marketing, but it was a cool themed way. And that's something that's cute in DeFi. Some people think
totally
it's
like that.
but it's just like we don't want to be corporate. Like,
No,
like a lot of us fucking left that realm because it sucks. Exactly. So screw that. Let's have a little fun with it and yet be like visionary. So not to be too long-winded, but nonetheless, it became now the lead of marketing, and alongside like growth, which was Jawz, who's just he's a real brilliant shit posting degenerate, wonderful human being in his own way. I still talk to the guy pretty much weekly because he's a creative dude. And so between that, we started to bring these community events together, and we had like gaming events, and we had the FOMOs, which is the fear of missing out, but with in between, a little clever wordplay. And it was really like one of the first community events in DeFi where you're actually bringing together multiple communities. You're giving shit away. We're giving away NFTs. We're doing all this stuff that now is recycled over and over because people are grasping at straws to figure out how to market their protocol in a diluted world, which is diluted in our bubble. But we started that trend, and it grew into something that where it's okay. Now we're getting to a point where people are catching on. And it wasn't just the community that did it, but that was a large solidified part of the foundation of what we were doing. From that point, moving forward, we started to brainstorm. It's like when you're starting to bring in revenue and the company's doing good and people are noticing you and people are seeing that you guys are doing new and cool shit, you start to pick up new individuals. And what was really shocking or surprising to me, which it shouldn't have been, but obviously this was new to everyone, is that when these individuals came in, like sometimes these guys would come with firepower. It would be somebody who was like Silicon Valley active at the time and like a straight brilliant dude. And like he's just in there on his day off going, yeah, what can I do? Yeah. That shit was mind boggling.
Let me ask you a question though. 2 questions. First of all, I want to backtrack real quickly. Was most of your previous work experience prior to the DeFi world, was that in?
Yeah, I'd say, a huge amount was. And then I broke away from that, the corporate structure, and started my own companies and businesses and had little startups. I had failures, I had successes, and that was what I did. So it was heavily entrepreneurial, and a lot of it was learned just from myself from trial and error.
Nice. And so just prior to this kind of this headfirst dive you did, you'd been working on your own businesses, but was there like and if this is none of my business, tell me, but was it like this income transitional time for you and diving into Olympus? And were you still working on your projects on your entrepreneurial stuff while you were diving into this, or was this just like head first for you?
Yeah, no, I like for me, I never stopped grinding in the background and I still do
Okay.
till this day. DeFi's
Nice.
always been chilling and it's something that I love and I believe in. And I think that helped me remove a lot of the pressure that comes
Yeah,
with this space because some people do go like full in. And when that happens, it becomes like a necessity to make it.
of course.
And that's definitely so. Yeah, I continue to grind on the side. I do a lot of consultation work between marketing. A little fun fact is I do a lot of legal cannabis consultation for large operations. So these multi-million dollar
Nice.
grow facilities, all up from West Coast. Now it's moved all the way to the East Coast, which is wonderful. I love to see that in America in its own way.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, it's just something I've always been in tune with Earth and with Mother Earth and the planet in general and the plant. And it's something I don't see people fail. And these things, to start up a legal cannabis company takes millions of dollars if you're going to do it right and to be
Right.
able to compete in the industry. And you watch these guys just fucking flail and drown. So I said,
Yeah,
hey,
sure.
I had the expertise from years of experience before, and I helped a lot of those guys. So that's taken the back burner to DeFi because that was so involved and that took all of my time and nonstop travel. Whereas like e-commerce and marketing and entrepreneurial endeavors like that were much easier to maintain while working.
Sure. And you could do them at home and the whole bit.
Yep.
All right. So in terms of kind of the dynamic that was happening in Olympus, I saw what you were just talking about, that there was like some really big brained, big qualification people coming into the space. Do you think it was a product of the level of engagement in Olympus DAO is just, tremendous in terms of the activity that people are doing in that? What was that something where it was like this momentum happened and you guys just said, "Holy shit, we've got to harness this and get people in the right place," or was it something that you had to both encourage and take the flow coming in?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question too, because I think what the intention was there for that to happen,
Right.
obviously, because everyone really wanted this thing to blow up and be big. And we put all of our effort into that. I think that what happened is that it happened so fast, beyond most people's expectations, right? The
Right.
industry moved so quick that we at that point went into the mode of, okay, this is happening much quicker than we had first anticipated. Let's get everyone in the right positions now. So it really hit like a tidal, right?
Yeah. What was it like figuring did you guys do like an inventory of skills and experience, or did you just let people say, "Hey, I want to do that," and you let them do that? What was that process like? I've got to believe herding all of these skills and experience. There are plenty of projects out there that would kill to have the flow of talent that was coming into Olympus, but how did you guys, or was it just as they came one at a time? Okay, you're good, great, do that, right?
Yeah, no, that's another really one. I'm so glad to be talking about this too, man, because these are
Nice.
all like the small, minute details that really add up to the big formula. And it's like really incredible. What happened and how this worked is like there's a little bit of a combination of both. So what you would have is necessity. We need something. And maybe
Right.
there is 10 or 20 people who claim that they can do that. And this proof of work, quote unquote, it really translates to show us what you can do, put your money where your mouth is and do it. And those individuals were the ones that stood out because everyone could
Nice.
come in and say, hey, I'm a front end dev or I'm a Solidity expert.
Right.
But it's the guys that fucking wrote the code and that shit was executed on were the ones that were like, oh, that guy is a Solidity expert. You know what I mean?
Nice.
So
Nice.
there
And he knows how to work it. That's the thing. Are they going to dive in and do the job?
show up and do it. That was the main thing is you are everyone's welcome. That was our motto is like everyone is welcome to join the DAO. It's the people that step up and do the work are the ones that will progress with the DAO. And that truly worked in a lot of ways.
And that's really interesting because in the corporate world, in the world that a lot of these people are coming from, they have been trained their entire professional lives to wait to be told what. And look, there's always a select group of people who are the go-getters, who are aggressive, who move up in the corporate world, whatever. But even some of those people, they still feel like they have to set, here's the job, here's what you will do every day, here's how you'll work on it. But in the life of a DAO, you guys are still figuring out what the hell you need to do, much less who's going to do it and telling them to do it. But it's this natural selection that's really cool, are the people that just go and say, okay, I'm going to build this and then deliver it for you. And then you're like, oh yeah, you're good for that. That's great.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think like part of the magic of all of that, if we want to call it that, because it's new, it's exciting, it's like overwhelming at times, is like also being able to differentiate between the individuals that truly want to donate or dedicate their time and their heart and their effort to build something great with uncertainty of any possibility of it being a success beyond what's already on paper, and seeing those individuals come in and I mean, some of them, man, were working 2 jobs. Some of them had multiple kids. You could hear the babies crying in the background during meetings, stuff like that. It was like so fascinating because they were passionate. It's so new and invigorating. That to me was one of the most magical parts about being part of a DAO, or one of the bigger DAOs to ever be created at the time. And it was really special to see the dedication of these people who didn't need to do it, but loved it.
Did you guys find that there was this natural, not natural, that there was a natural kind of desire for a hierarchy to get created? Or did you guys, like everyone kept going to Zeus for can we or should we do this? Or did it just happen naturally that everybody just did what they needed to do?
Yeah, one of the goals before like operations was really brought into the mix, which was an app super important thing to have right off the rip. All the people starting DAOs, make sure you have your operations in place. Numero uno. They did a lot. The early operations contributors did a really wonderful job of kind of just bootstrapping everything, making sure it came together quickly, building the ship as it was flying. Shoot, I got a little lost.
No, it's all right. I was just asking, was there a hierarchy that just
Yes.
naturally formed? Was everybody still bugging Zeus about what to do
Per-
here and there and that kind of thing?
Yeah, no, sorry about that. Yeah,
That
the main goal that we had was to remain as flat as possible. That
okay.
was like
Awesome.
off the rip. And one, Zeus he didn't want to be that figure, as it was an idea of his that came to life. And he really wanted the power to be in people's hands. That reverberated within the DAO as well. We wanted to remain as flat and fair as possible. We didn't want a pecking order or any of these kind of corporate high school politics coming into the play that comes with hierarchy. But what you learn is that as that happens, there are some hierarchical necessities that need to take place in order for proper structure and execution to take place as well. So it's a very interesting dichotomy where you're looking at it from a very flat perspective, but at the same time, there's people that are going to have questions and they have to ask somebody who has
Right.
answers to those questions. So it's very unique.
That's cool. Did this end up in a situation where a lot of the members of the DAO that were diving in full time, were they doing this? And if it's none of my business, tell me it's none of my business. Was there a compensation structure for the team, or was this something where people were just volunteering their time most of the time and it was just what it was?
Yeah. So originally in the very beginning, and myself included, I just dove in, not expecting a thing. I didn't want
Right.
jack shit. This was exciting. I made new friends. I'm a hermit in the woods, quote unquote. Now I found my peace out in the quiet of the pines, if you will.
Nice.
But that doesn't really lend you to making a lot of new friends. And so the internet really is a really great escape. And I'm a social butterfly, if you will. So to me, it was like, shit, I have a whole new group of friends. These guys are all fucking brilliant. You know what I mean? I'm used to working in a realm where a lot of these dudes are smoking hella weed and they're not really the sharpest characters. In case, no offense to the guys out there. And you know, I smoke, so there's no issue there. But I was looking to like level up in my friend circle in a lot of ways, and this was a really just a great time to do that because these guys
Yeah.
were brilliant. So I came in expecting jack shit, and
Right.
you know, and I donated. God, man, I thank goodness for my wife. I'm surprised she didn't leave me. I locked myself in the office for that first year, pretty much, of
Wow.
just let's fucking rock and roll. Let's make this thing work.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's awesome. And look, I think the nice thing is that the incentives align no matter what, right? And when you're dedicating that kind of time to something that you've invested in, then the reward is on the other end of that. So I think that makes complete sense. And
Sure.
it's interesting as I meet all the people that I've met in these interviews to hear some of the real similarities of the stories here because are you familiar with the guys at Young Capital? Have you ever heard of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they did something very similar kind of spurred out of their collaboration and that they were like mixing it up with memes and degen shit in the
Mhm.
Alchemix group. And Alchemix basically said, dude, you guys need your own room because you're killing me here. And so they started just created this group and all of a sudden there were 18 of them and they created an investment fund. And so it's just so interesting to see how so many people were doing in DeFi what you were doing, which was finding new friends, new people to learn from, to grow with. And it's, to me, it's a really amazing component of everything that's happening in DeFi and the DAOs, is that everybody wants to make a buck. Don't get me wrong. Everybody wants to build something cool. We all are motivated by building something cool, but there's this like underlying social thing that's happening
Yes.
that I don't think people necessarily think about that often. That is a really critical component of it.
Massive. Yeah, it's such a good point. And really it can be at the foundation, like it was for me, for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Like that is a fundamental aspect of the DAO life, like a social release almost.
Right. Right.
And at the same time, you're having fun and potentially making money with
And I think you have less conflict that way, right? Like typically, if you just took a group of people and slapped them together and said, we're going to build this thing, if they didn't build any relationships in the process, then it's probably going to get pretty ugly. But in this case, you guys are like having fun together, learning together, investing together, and then you're like building together. And that's pretty amazing. That's cool.
It was definitely, it's special in its own regard. And what's really neat, and what you're touching on, is with Yunt, like individuals recognize like-minded individuals within.
Yeah.
So what you have are these micro niches of people who are creative and they're friends with everybody. But maybe these 5 people over here see eye to eye a little bit better than the other group, 95%. Right. And that group might do something on the side, which is really cool and creative and speaks to their like creative mind. And that's what's really cool. So you see these NFT project spinoffs where people are really getting on the artistic side of things. And then you see these other like just degen projects, which are just really neat. So I think it's really fascinating that you put them all in one pot, you boil them together, and then a couple of the crabs jump out and they're like, let's go over to this pot.
Do this thing over here. Really, absolutely. No, that's amazing. Amazing. Look, I'm sure it wasn't all adrenaline and excitement. What were the things that as you guys are trying to like bring this all together, that you found to be difficult, or that maybe mistakes you or others on the team made in bringing it all together and trying to structure things? Because ultimately there is no roadmap for this. So
right.
what kind of things did you guys encounter that you wish we'd done that differently, or that you want to make sure other people know, hey, try not to do this?
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, because these things are not all cupcakes and unicorn farts and fucking sparkles and gold stars. They're really not. And honestly, I think time is our greatest enemy in this space. And what's ridiculous is that 1 year of time in this space feels like fucking 10 in a corporate scenario, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
It's just because it's such an ADD realm. And there's so much brilliance that's being thrown around. And it really is like you're bombarded with it. It's like a television on the highest volume in your face from morning till night. You dream about the shit because it's your life. Yep. And then you wake up and you rinse and repeat. And what I would love to stress to individuals that are starting DAOs or jumping into the space is like the regulation and the boundary setting of your own time, your own schedule amongst yourself and your peers is absolutely fundamental in your success in this space.
Nice.
Very good. Yeah. So the ability to be able to regulate that excitement, the ability to be able to regulate the excitement of your friends, and to set clear boundaries, it will save your ass, and it'll let you win the long game.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. You fucking burn out, dude. It's over. Come back, but you're not going to come back. You're coming back wounded.
Exactly. And look, I mean, it's Discord. And it's pure chaos anyway. And then it's constant and it's 24/7 and it's never ending. And there's always something you can do. And if you try to do it all, you are going to burn out. You are going to flame.
100%. And to speak to your question, some of the things that we could have done different, and just to give people a heads up and like what they could do differently. I think that everyone in Olympus from start to finish has always had really good intentions, and everyone has done everything with the intention of everyone making it that they could. And I say that not because I, am biased, because I've worked with the guys. Like I've sat in meetings with these dudes for hours upon hours and really vetted everyone and sussed everyone out, because anons. And you can't just go in trusting people off the rip. So the entire time that I'm with these guys, I'm still sitting there going, okay, so what's the intention of this character? What's the intention here? This is all good. And from my experience, 99% of the time, everything was in good intention. Now, The side that people need to be careful about with DAOs in general, and what we've run into, is just the different characters, the inflow and outflow of different characters. So what I mean by that is that you have to be able to identify bad actors in the space. And
Sure.
to do that, it takes fucking time. Not everyone that signs up for your DAO is a good contributor. Just because
Right.
they're in the space doesn't make them fucking qualified. And you have to be able to let go of some of the, I'm a big hearted dude. I lean into like really just giving everyone a chance. And early on, I had to really pull back and go, I have to really dig deep into these people and see what the real true intention is. And I think that the onboarding process, the vetting, and allocating enough human resources, meaning having enough people to actually interact, listen, take the time to vet these individuals before they join your DAO, in a sense, that needs to be taken very seriously. Because what happens is it's very easy for individuals to become embedded in the DAO, like an ingrown hair, and then you're dealing with an optics issue if something goes south. So my warning, yes, is to 100% take your time when allowing people to join your DAO. Obviously, it's a decentralized autonomous organization. You can't be fucking gatekeeping too hard, but there should be enough effort put in to vet individuals correctly. And the processes need to be perfected when vetting those individuals so that you make safe plays when bringing people on.
Well, and I think it makes complete sense, even more so if you're engaging them into like critical projects for the DAO itself. And I got to believe firing people is a really difficult thing in a DAO. I guess it's just an admin and Discord thing away, but I definitely can understand how critical that is, because otherwise you just spin your wheels. You have a negative impact on the image of the DAO. Certainly, you've got to be careful of that.
Yeah, it's very easy in this realm to have a wonderful reputation and then have that absolutely decimated by a couple characters. And
Yeah.
and that can happen in the form of FUD, it can happen in the form of, which can be people lying or making up stories, or and it really comes back to that whole high school analogy or middle school where it's, this place is anonymous. These people are hidden behind the screen, a lot of them. And the rules and regulations that come with a corporation, the things that you can't do that are outlined in maybe contractual obligations, are not there. So some of these guys have had no experience in those realms at all, or any business experience at all, and they don't know how to behave or how to act, and that can reflect really poorly. All my love goes out to people in operations in these DAOs because there's no human resources, quote unquote. Maybe some people are starting to do the HR gig, but like the balancing of personalities. And what you find in this space is that with brilliance comes social ineptness. So what you're seeing is you see these people who are just so brilliant, but they haven't really interfaced outside of maybe their basement or their fucking bedroom. You know what I mean? And I say that in the kindest way. I really do.
But I know what you mean. Look at Vitalik, right?
Yeah. And I walked in on Vitalik at my hotel at Eat Denver. He's just sitting in the lobby on his fucking phone. Like, tell me that's not incredible, bro.
That's
I love
amazing.
it.
That's
Dude's
amazing.
just a genius chilling. But yeah, so not to sidetrack, but I think that really managing the personalities, carefully handling those personalities, and just being gentle with humans is a really good takeaway from anyone that's working from an operational standpoint.
That's great. That's really good advice. If you were to make a list, let's say, so today I called you up and said, Fatty, I'm launching a project. It's some complex DeFi protocol. I'm gonna get out there. I'm gonna try to get people excited about it, and I really need to build up a DAO. No, let me revert that. I've launched a DeFi protocol. I have a ton of people excited and interested in it. I've got these flood of people jumping into my Discord. What would be the first 3 or 5 things you would tell me, dude, you got to make sure you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, whatever the number is. What are those things that you would really advise people to start thinking about right away out of the gate? I think we've covered a couple, but I just want to, maybe we can sickle this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy to do that. And I like how you reworded it too, because you went from maybe no excitement and a new startup to this already has traction.
Yeah.
And those are two massively
different things.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Wonderful. But speaking in the terms of, say, you've got traction, you've already won a large part of the battle. So one of the things in DeFi that's very difficult is marketing. And anybody that works in marketing, and some people will go, wait, what are you talking about, Fatty? You could throw something out on Twitter and boom, you're fucking famous.
No, doesn't work
like,
that way.
Twitter is something that DeFi has been backed in the corner of, because it is one of our only legal recourses for marketing in the States.
It's true.
Now, if you're in other countries, sure, you can get around it. From my experience in the space, there are no paid ads. There is no affiliate marketing. There is no fucking Google campaigns that you can run. There is not really an easy way to start flooding retail and bringing in that kind of adoption via the normal avenue. So that's the first thing that I'd like to point out. But to get back to what you were asking, okay, you've got traction, right? You've done your marketing in a way that makes sense. So you've done something right off the rip. You've got a good marketer. You've come up with a great campaign. You've created an exciting product, which is different. Be fucking original. This space is flooded with carbon copies, and that's one of the double-edged swords of DeFi and crypto in general. Is it's all on the fucking blockchain. It's been developed. You just fork that shit for the most part, and then you have a flood of copycats. We saw that with Olympus.
Of course. And
it can be super detrimental to an image, and it can do a lot of damage. But be original. That would be number one. So you got your idea, you got your marketing, you got a little bit of traction. The next thing I would say even before that, you want to make sure that your Discord or your platforms are set up in a way, again, foundationally, you'll hear me say that a shitload, because if you ain't laying the brick properly from the start, you're going to be building the fucking house as this thing's growing, and that shit is going to collapse in different sectors. Your bathroom's going to cave in. You're going to have a kitchen fucked up. So you're going to
be rebuilding it over and over again.
And you don't want to do that. So you want to start with the fundamental foundational things being set up. So having a Discord guru, and that might sound silly, but a lot of people.
Oh, it's critical, dude. Yeah.
It's critical. It's super critical, because once you get into Discord, there's bot integration, and yes, you can learn it. There's a lot of brilliant people. You can sit there and you can take care of it. But if you're starting a DAO or you're the founder or anything, you don't need to be delegating time into that shit. You need somebody, and delegation is fucking key in this realm. If you want to make it, you have to learn to trust and delegate, or you will collapse 100%. I would say make sure your Discord is set up. Make sure you have all avenues of communication set up, and make sure that the people that are responding in those different platforms are on top of their shit. There's nothing worse than when you're trying to build, if you have somebody trying to get in touch with you, and it could be your next big segue into fame or a mass amount of wealth. If you leave somebody on red for 3 or 4 days, you're fucking up. So there's a level of professionalism, and to do that, you need to make sure that you have the right people surrounding you. So that's another huge point. The fundamental foundational setup, Discord, Telegram, however you want to do it. Make sure that you have a clean way of meeting with people that maybe are not so privy to Discord. So get used to Google Meetings, get used to setting up things like that, where you're able to talk with quote unquote normies in a comfortable way. I would say that would be definitely a start. The second, another thing, all of this needs to happen in parallel. Brad, it's easy to say like step by step how it should happen. But the truth is, a lot of this needs to be formed together and in parallel. So to do that, you need to make sure that you're surrounded with people who are capable of backing you up when you need. So find yourself 1 or 2 dudes that are diehard, they are dedicated, believe in the project, and have never let you down. That's the best you can do in this space with Anons. Now, if that's family, fuck yeah, go for it. You got blood there to reinforce it. But a lot of us, you talk to your brothers and sisters, your mom and dad, they're like, what?
Exactly.
We don't get that. So find those people that have been with you, die hard, maybe your best buddy, bring them in and have them handle the shit that you don't have the bandwidth for. So whether that's getting the Discord guy set up, so make sure that guy's taken care of. Make sure you have somebody in operations that goes, okay, this is how this needs to work. This is the workflow. This is how this all needs to be set up for us to work in a efficient manner. So those would be some of the first things that I would say to really bring to light. The other thing that you have to be cognizant of while doing this is making sure that the people that treat you well, you treat them well. And I've seen it time and time again, is that people take for granted the genius that others bring to the table in this space. And you can lose somebody that could have saved your ass.
Yep.
So make sure that the people you put in those positions are there and they know that they're appreciated, and they will have your back until the end of days. So
all it takes is a little bit of recognition. That's all it takes, man. If there's any lesson I've learned in my life about managing people or working with people, it's recognizing what they bring to the table. They'll go to the moon for you. Yeah.
Yeah. You absolutely nailed it. So from that, another thing that's super important, and I'm glad that you're giving me a platform to be able to share
loving this shit, because our world needs this, man. There are so many people out there just flailing,
dying to hear it. Dying to hear it. And that's what I want to do. I really want that to be something that we can present, help people. That's been a goal since the beginning. Another thing to take into account is image, right? And brand. And one thing that you can find when you start a DAO is that a lot of people have different ideas of how something should be, right? So if you're the founder of something like Olympus, maybe you came up with this brilliant idea and you have all these wonderful ideas of how it should go forward, and you just got a giant swelling pulsating brain. But you bring in a bunch of other people and their opinions start to come into play. So you have to be able to manage those opinions properly, not offend people by telling them no. You have to be okay with being like, no, that's not going to fuck. And this is why. Provide examples why it won't work, so that there's there's facts to go off of, not just your opinion or your emotions. So leave emotions the fuck out of all of this. So then from there, you want to make sure that the brand cohesiveness and image is solidified across the board. And how do you do that when you got maybe fucking 10 people in design, right? Let's just say you got 5 people. You got to make sure that there's a somewhat of a hierarchy, in the sense that there's one person that says, this is what we've all agreed on. We maybe 2 or 3 of the 5 people have agreed. This is now in stone. We do not deviate. That's key. So make sure that when you have an image and a brand, you stick with it. Pivoting from an image and a brand in this space or any space in general is a bearish move. It's dangerous.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Unless you're going through a whole revamp and you just kick that fucking CEO. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because otherwise, look, it's hard enough to get people's attention, and people lock into brand identity, and that's important to them. And so if you change that radically, you're going to lose what you had.
you absolutely are. And it sends like the sentiment out to the world that you might not know what you're doing, or you might not know the direction that you're going in. So you have to tread lightly on that. It's okay to start and then pivot, but don't do that shit too much. Make sure that once you really lock it in, you have everybody turning the key and saying, this is the move. So brand identity, image, make sure that from a design perspective is in place. Then I would say moving forward, make sure that the operations guys aren't getting burned out. And then you move back to marketing as well. Now that you have something where guys all believe and you agree, so you have a group consensus, this is the way it fucking needs to go. This is how it looks. You then want to make sure that marketing is aligned. Do not confuse community and content with marketing or make sure early on, it is all assimilated into one. That sounds crazy, because in the early days of Olympus, and this is a good example, is that community and content truly, it either needs to be completely separate and unbiased, like a news network. So
like a media.
Exactly. It's so that they're giving fair opinions. It's not a biased blue elephant meme, if you know what I'm talking about. So that you're getting truth out to people, which is super important. But if you separate those, make sure you keep them separate clearly, because what it can do is cause intercommunicational confusion and optics issues. Now, if you bring them all together, and the news and media source is a truly DAO run thing, and it's obviously going to be spreading the most positive information, and you bring that together, make sure you're working hand in hand with marketing and everyone's aligned. The optics in DAOs are where people get fucked. And I'll say that right now. It's because there's so much going on. And when you get big enough, you're going to start to feel like you're fucking drowning if you do not have the optics issues ironed out. So that's a huge one for me, Brad.
Could you explain? Let's dive into that a little further. When you say optics and DAOs are critical, you mean the optics of people that are coming in, understanding and hearing a clear message and clear communication about what's happening, what the DAO is, what the project is? Or do you mean just people fucking up and the optics go bad because somebody says something stupid?
No, your first explanation was a little bit more in tune with it. It's more of optics of operations within the DAO.
Got it.
What happens in a way
Optics functions.
Exactly.
Got it.
So a real clean way to give an example of this is when the teams start to grow to such a large size, right? And you've got maybe one team managing, or you've got a single lead engineer, and he communicates the direction of what engineering's doing. They're doing their thing. Maybe there's 10 of those guys doing their thing. And then you've got marketing over here. Engineering has been building out a new product, but marketing's been focusing on FOMO 4, which is a community event. And maybe the news network is focusing on this. And then what happens is you start to have a disconnect between departments, if you will, quote unquote departments, or teams as it should be called in the DAO life. So when you have that disconnect, that's when you start to have confusion. People don't know what's going on from time to time. And there's ways to remedy that. And I'll give a little freebie out, which I'm more than happy to do. And I just want to make sure everyone has the resources they need to not fuck up or trip over their shoelaces, is appoint individuals that their sole purpose and goal is to download information from each teams and correspond between teams. So these guys are literally Their job is just to
Oh, I
make
like
sure that
that.
everyone's synced up. So that's really important.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah,
That's brilliant. I
it's
love that.
a big one. And what you don't want to do is don't overburden those guys with responsibilities that are outside of that realm of work. Their
Oh, that's
job
fantastic.
in the DAO is to communicate between each team and make sure that's all brought together in a cohesive manner. And that happens in a semi-regular cadence meeting amongst those team leads. So what you're seeing is somebody bouncing back and forth, communicating, and then everyone gets linked up in that whole network. So
That's
that's one
awesome.
way of fixing it.
And that's not like a traditional product manager role because that person's not responsible for any one thing. It's
Correct.
really more about clearly making sure that everyone understands who's doing what and what path they're headed down and why, and making sure those are aligned. And if they're not, I assume getting that, making that happen, like bringing them together to say, hey, wait a minute, there, this is completely out of sync. We've got to make sure everyone's heading down the same path.
1000%. Yeah.
Nice.
And it's a lot of responsibility. What you'll see, and I think this is something that's very important to notice, is that as the DAO grows, these positions will need to grow as well. So you might start with one individual who is really acting as like the neural web for making sure everyone's on the same page, from an optics standpoint. But then what you'll notice is that you need to make sure that he has an assistant with him as well, because now he's doing this for 6 or 7 or 10 or 15 groups. And maybe there's a little bit of bandwidth that he needs to offload so that he can continue to do his job properly.
Sure. Makes
Super
total
important.
sense.
Super
Yeah.
important.
Because it's just going to get bigger.
Yep.
At its largest, how many people do you think you actively had in the DAO working? Just a guesstimate. I know you.
I want to say ballpark, we were probably at around 200 people
That's
at one
amazing.
time.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I'd say at our peak, and don't stab me if I'm wrong, DAO out
No.
there. If it was more, I'm totally sorry. But I think that we were in the ballpark between like about 170 and 200 people at our peak. And I think the largest team was engineering, and engineering and marketing were definitely the largest at the time. Now that changes depending on which way the wind blows at the time,
Sure.
or what kind of products
Sure.
you're trying to ship, if that's the case. But yeah, I'd say around 200 at our max, which is pretty fucking big.
Incredible. Incredible. You guys, obviously, things have been a little rough for Olympus DAO lately, but you posted, first, I want to touch on something you posted today. I think it was
Yeah.
today about your life that I think probably made you better prepared than anyone in the space for doing this work, man, because I read this, I don't know, half hour before our interview and just sat here with my mouth open with this story of what happened to you, man. It's just like unbelievable to recover from this and then to come out of it with a positive outlook when many people coming out of this, what happened to you, would have a not so happy life. So
Yeah.
could you like give people a taste of that? Because I think that's a really strong insight into kind of why why you've been able to do what you have been doing and why you're probably driven a bit more than the average person.
Yeah, 100%. I'm happy to share it. And this is something I told my wife yesterday, because the act of actually revisiting these events, right? You don't think about it at the time as you're typing maybe, but after you hit send on Twitter and it's out there and it's, hey, I actually did this and I shared this with the world. It's a very exposing / vulnerable aspect of my life.
Right.
And I told my wife, I said, if I can get one person to say, hey, this really fucking helped me, and if I can help one single individual, then this was all worth it. I'll take any amount of emotional trauma or whatever it brings up from revisiting it, because I've affected one person. And since I was a little guy, that was all I wanted to do. I wanted to help people.
Nice.
So with my wife, I told her that, and I shared this story. And just for the listeners too, to give them a heads up, I'll break it down, and I'm more than happy to do that. Early 20s, I was going through a bad break. I went on, I had a series of unfortunate events. I won't get too deep into the details of how it happened, but to give you guys an idea, I ended up at the bottom of a 50-foot cliff stayed overnight in the rain, hit every tree. I think hitting the trees on my way down made the difference, but I ended up at the bottom of a cliff in a puddle, almost drowned in this little puddle, and was stuck overnight for 8 hours by myself and really had no idea what the hell was going on, because I slapped my head on the ground. I later found out that there was a substantial amount of injuries that followed that. But over the night, something I didn't share in my Twitter post is that there was a point where I could and this might sound super cliche and I don't subscribe to the cliche shit, but I'm just sharing honestly what I experienced was I remember looking down at my body, super weird. And it was something that you see on the fucking Ghost Hunter show or something.
Yeah.
And I remember looking down and like just a brief overview and going in and out of consciousness and seeing a lot of bright white. It was just very like the Matrix where it's just the white room.
Yeah.
So like when I hit, that originally happened like an intense amount of ringing in my ears. And I wake up and go in and out of consciousness. And I realize I'm in a puddle and I'm inhaling water and I can't really fucking move at all. I have no idea what's happening. Like literally not a damn clue. It's like somebody hit the reset switch on your brain and you're sitting there. Where the fuck am I? Why am I out here? What is this? Okay, it's raining. And then you start to try to like, as your brain is booting back up, if you will, you start to try to put the pieces together out of just like a pure survival mode. So you're going, okay, what am I doing here? Where am I? First off, and no idea where the fuck I was. Okay, what are the basics going on here? It's raining. I'm cold, so I got to get my arms in my sleeves. I had a little bit bigger of a shirt on, so I pulled them in my sleeves. And from what I could do, I pulled the shirt over my nose and would breathe super deep because I had the warm breath, and that was the only thing keeping me warm. At this point, I'm convulsing. I don't even know where I'm at. So I'm just there, and I go, okay, I got to make it through this until I can see because it's pitch dark out. I don't even know what fucking time it is, and I got to figure this out. So I'm breathing in my shirt. I'm going in and out of consciousness. I've managed to get my head out of the puddle and put it up on I think I pulled like a stick or something that would just keep it a little elevated. And I just continue to breathe in my shirt, keep myself warm. And then I remember hearing the birds chirping when the sun started to break. And I go, okay, I'm like looking around and still in the fetal position, trying to stay warm. And I'm going, where the fuck am I, dude? And okay, the sun's here. Great. So I start to try to get up and move. I had to conserve energy for whatever reason from a survival standpoint. That was everything. It was like, I need to wait until I can see. If I try to do anything right now, I'm just wandering in the dark. Like this wouldn't make sense. So I tried to get up and I realized instantly almost like this empty feeling on my back. And it was an odd feeling. It was a feeling of like disconnection. I don't know how else to put it, but it was obviously from the physical trauma and I couldn't really get up at first. So I pulled myself over, like crawling and dredging through the mud. And I pulled myself over to a tree and I kind of started to lean up against it. And I remember this perfectly because it was just like, it was such a struggle for me to get my back against the fucking tree. So I got against the tree and it took me another, I don't even know how long. The time was warped at this point in time and my brain wasn't working. So I finally somehow get myself up to my feet. And this kind of, I can never explain the feeling, but this feeling of almost like a hollowness going through my back, like a nerve issue. It was like a very odd feeling. I remember feeling it and being like, okay, I don't know where the fuck I am, but I need to start walking in this direction. So I have my hands in my sleeves, I got the shirt over myself, I'm soaking wet, and I just start walking in one direction. And thank goodness, I end up on a trail. And I'm like, okay, so I can go left and I start walking left. And I'm just one step in front of the other, slow as shit. And with what energy I have, help me like as loud as I can get it, but it hurt to say it. And there's no one around, dude. All I'm hearing is birds chirping, sun's coming out. It's actually quite beautiful. Rain's stopped at this point. And so I'm walking and then I hit this mile marker on the right, a little wooden peg. And it basically says 5 miles until this point. And at that point, when I saw that mile marker, I knew exactly where I was. I said, oh shit, I used to live back here. So if you click, the neurons started firing and I'm going, okay. Oh, I'm going the wrong fucking direction. It's just
thank goodness you were able to figure that out.
So I turned around and I just start limping. I'm talking, it's a step a minute, bro. It was not like you're running out of the fucking woods. It wasn't like some shit in the movies. I feel like I'm dying and I need to get out of here and I'm living on adrenaline right now. You don't recognize it at the time, but looking back, it's what it was. So I'm walking. I find a break in this creek bed and the creek is just at this time of year, it's very low. So I walk through the water. Just very slowly. It's not enough to slip or fall or anything like that. So I was grateful for that. I get across. And then by the grace of whatever, I find my way to exit of this actual creek area. It's a recreational area where people would go and swim during the summer times and shit like that. So I climb out of this uphill kind of rock path. And then I end up in basically the backyard of where I used to live. And I'm like, okay, I know where the fuck I am. There's a little shop over here that's not a gas station, but just like a little food area. So I head into that shop. I walk over there and the dude at the counter, man, his face was just like, what the fuck? Because I'm soaked. I got blood running down my face. I got my hands in my shirt. And I just asked him, can I use your phone? And he did. Dude, bless this dude. He gave me his phone And he didn't ask questions at all. He
He
handed it to me.
didn't
He
want to
just
do it.
literally gave it to me. He looked shocked. It looked like he seen a fucking ghost. And I go, oh my God. So he hands me this phone and I call my father. And that's the only thing my brain could think of. I didn't fucking call 911.
I was about to say,
Yeah. I called my dad and I go, Dad, I'm dying. And I fucking hung up.
Oh shit.
Can you imagine as a father hearing that? Like,
No.
holy shit, dude. So I think they star 69 or something and they called back to figure it out. But before they did that, I sat on a wine crate in the back of the store, like a bodega of sorts. And I sat on this wine crate and then it hit me. That's when the pain started to hit. And it came in fucking a tsunami. It was up and down my spine and my neck and throbbing in my brain. And I go, oh shit, something's really wrong. That's when it actually sat in. And I go, okay, so I walk back to the front desk and I ask the guy again. I go, can I use your phone again? And he hands it to me and I call 911.
Yeah.
And all I can say is I'm fucking dying and I give it back to the guy.
Oh
So
shit.
sure enough, the ambulance gets there in what seems like an eternity, as it does in a lot of these situations, as I've heard from people. But they get there and they look at me like I'm just a young kid who was fucking partying the night before and was on drugs and was doing, and none of that was the case. It was just I was so battered and my clothes were so fucked up and I looked so haggard that they just instantly assumed. So they treated me like I was just another individual, hadn't been through any kind of thing. They threw me on a wooden stretcher with no padding at all.
Oh.
They threw me in the back of that fucking thing, and I just start crying. I'm crying in pain. I don't know what's going on.
God.
And they're laughing. I'll never forget, these fuckers are laughing at me as they hit these speed bumps and it bounced the whole fucking back of the
Holy
vehicle and it's shooting pain through my entire body. I'm going, oh my God, dude. And I'm crying because at this point I'm like, I give up. I'm pretty sure I'm going to die or something of the matter is going to happen. I'm confused as shit. There's no cognitive understanding of what's going on. So these guys, they bring me to the hospital after a hell ride. They put me in a fucking wheelchair and wheel me into the waiting room and leave. And I sit there. And then the shock starts hitting me more and I'm bawling. And I'll never forget this. And I hope that someday I can figure out which nurse this was. But this nurse comes running out into the waiting room because I'm fucking in tears, howling at this point. And she looks at me in the eyes and she goes, what the fuck did they do to you? And she grabs me and rushes me back. And that was blackout point, where I just gave up. That was all my energy. I got to the hospital.
Yeah, you got somebody's attention.
That's it.
I gotta go. Yeah,
I got it. Now I got to figure out boom, I'm out. I wake up in a fucking hospital bed, dude. And my parents are there. There's, I'm surrounded by people. And I couldn't even tell you what the time frame was at this point. It could have been the next day, but everyone's there and I'm coherent. And they let me know, they go, hey, fatty, your back is broken. Your 3 thoracic, I think it was T6, 7, and 8, have been actually broken off from either side of your spinal cord. And we have to give you an emergency surgery, a spinal fusion, or you potentially will never walk again. There's a coin toss, 50% chance you'll never walk again. And we have to do it at this point. You can't let it heal naturally. Your vertebrae are fucking floating, basically.
Oh God.
So here I am.
Wait, so let's you're walking with
it's
severed spine in multiple places all the way in, and to add insult to injury, the paramedics don't take you seriously.
No one believed me.
And make it worse. It's just incredible to me. It's insane.
Yeah, it was so.
What's insane is that you had the wherewithal to actually walk it, right? And
yes.
Because I think most people would have laid there and died, frankly. I can't fathom it. I really can't fathom it.
For me, it was I'm not fucking dying.
Yeah.
In my mind, it was it ain't happening. I don't I'm
not dying today.
Way out of this woods, but I ain't dying right here where I'm
laying on
I had a plan in my mind that night from whatever jarbled brain function I had to get the fuck out of there. I was terrified. And I should mention that the PTSD after this, and we can get into that a little bit, but I couldn't sleep in a room with a door closed for years because the feeling of being alone and isolated like I was at the bottom of that cliff was some of the most insane shit ever. And you don't really, people that don't experience PTSD don't really have that grasp of what it truly means to have that, but it's a psychological fucker. So,
I cringe when people throw that term around. Because it's like, you know,
dangerously.
I've never been through anything that would cause me that, but I know the circumstances that cause that to people, and
For sure.
we shouldn't use that term lightly. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I wake up and they, pretty much what we have to agree to the spinal fusion. You know what I mean? It's just
There's
what
no
has to
choice.
happen. They say, okay, we're going to do that. And they're so focused on my spine. And I've been in the hospital. I forgot what the delay was, but for some reason we had like, I think between 2 to 3 days of before the surgery could actually happen.
Oh.
And on that third, I think it was the night before the surgery, they were so focused on my back that they didn't look at my fucking neck. And my neck
God,
was
are you kidding?
broken. I had multiple nurses run into the room. I remember I was like 2 or 3 in the morning. Don't touch fatty beds. Do not touch it. Do not move, sir. Do not freak the fuck out. Like they just seen the x-ray. And I'm already going through this shit. What now? Boom, they strap a neck brace on. So now they're like, by the way, you fractured your neck. You broke just one part of your neck that didn't instantly kill you or turn you into a paraplegic. So you're good there. But do you want to have a halo drilled in your head?
Oh no.
To heal it, or do you want to naturally let it heal and see if you can get away with that? And at this point, I didn't want fucking a halo drilled in my head.
I don't
Like I'm already so
I can't even
traumatized.
fathom that. You better knock me out for as long as that has to be in my head.
Exactly. So I'm like, and I'm talking to my parents. I don't want them to drill into my skull. That's terrifying.
Oh,
Like,
God. Yeah.
so I opted out of that. I said, let's just keep a neck brace on. They said, you'll have to wear a neck brace for about a year, and you're going to have to wear a back brace after the surgery for a year. And you're going to be bedridden for probably 6 months before you can start to do any kind of rehabilitation. So I go into the surgery, I come out, I wake up, and everything, people are around me. And I think it was the night after surgery, the girl that I was seeing at the time came in, brought me flowers, and let me know in my haze that she could not be with me.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it would talk about putting salt on the wound. It was like,
Oh no.
oh, so now, like, it's a chick that I was with for a decent amount of time. And that was like adding a mental heartache to the whole thing too. So then I'm going, okay, give me more medication or whatever the fuck. Let's just get through this. That's all I need to do. Everything else will be all right.
Oh God.
So that hit. So then I had a lot of friends come through, but the harsh reality of it is that the day ones, the guys that were my buddies skateboarding and smoking pot with me back in middle school, that tight-knit group of maybe 2 or 3 friends you make and maybe lose over the course of life, those guys were the guys that stuck around during the healing period. The other people who came in, and it's totally understandable. People have lives, like they have things they have to take care
hard.
of. Maybe it's hard. I didn't fault anyone for that, but there was only maybe 2 or 3 people that stuck with me through it. And then of course my family.
Oh, yeah.
Bless their hearts. It was a hell of a thing for them. But anyway, they said, hey, look, we got to send you home. Here's a hospital bed. It literally, with the control and everything, you rent it out from us and basically put it in your house and keep it for as long as you need, because I couldn't sit up myself. I couldn't wipe my own ass, couldn't take a shit by myself. You couldn't piss by yourself. So you all these things that you take for granted that you love, or you don't even love, you don't even notice.
It's just part of life.
Stripped from you instantly. They're gone.
That's insane.
And now you're looking at life like, will I ever walk again? Will I ever be able to wipe my ass again? My parents are getting older. Are they going to pass away from the stress? My mom's got heart problems. Like all these things start to hit you, and there's 2 options, bro. And I'm going to be honest with anybody that's going through shit. And this might seem insensitive, but it's the reality of the situation for at least me, is that you can either fight or you can just lay the fuck down and give up. And there's really the 2 options you got. There's no in between. You're gonna battle a little, or you give the fuck up. And at that time I said, you know what, dude, I'm still here. I'm thinking I can do shit. I'm cool. Like, I'm gonna fight this fucker through, and I'm gonna stay as positive as I can through this whole fucking ordeal, regardless of the outcome. I'm not gonna think one day ahead or the day behind. I'm gonna stay in the present, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that is the strategy that I went with through the entire time. And it was 6 months in a bed. After 3 months, or I don't know, maybe with 1 to 3 months, I was able to start to move the bed upright. So that I was good. My mother, bless her heart, was bringing me food 3 meals a day into my room. I couldn't really get up at all until after about the 3 to 6 month marker. I started to do like these rehabilitation, like these walks. And what they said is, you can walk, and you need to walk to rebuild all the nervous system and make sure all that stuff starts to fire and work together again. So I started to go on these cane walks with my mother, and I just wouldn't stop. I'd go until I was in tears and pain, because I was like, fuck this. Nothing is waiting. I'm doing it. I don't care. And I pushed, brother. And I got through it to a point of where and let me know if I'm being too long winded too, bro. I know.
No, dude, I love this. I'll figure out how to make it all work in. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Awesome. At the end of it, if you get to a point of where you're in a neck brace and you're in a back brace and you're able to walk and you're able to hang out with your buddies again, and the doctors told me, I don't know if my parents told them to tell me this, but they said like, no drinking, no smoking, or you'll never walk. That was a pretty cool way for me to find a sobriety there. And like, I just accepted it. And I was a partying young guy, like
Sure.
happens. And then I dealt with some addiction to the pain medication because I had to be on it. The pain was, there's no way. And I think opioids are a horrible fucking thing, but in some edge cases, in some cases, people truly do need pain medication.
Of course.
And at that time, I did need it.
I think actually administering it should probably come along with some kind of rehab after, right? It's
Absolutely.
You're going to be doing these every day because you have this pain. We have a plan, right? We have a plan. You're going to be addicted. Let's make sure we help you get off of it. But instead we leave people to figure it out. So
massive failure on our behalf here and around the world. There needs to be a regimen, and there needs to be real follow-up protocol for that.
Yeah.
So me being me, the anxiety of all this was really traumatic because I had almost died. I went through all this loss at one time. My life had changed. I'm never skateboarding again. I'm never doing some of these things that I really love, or I didn't think I would. And so I kind of just was like, fuck, man, I need something to cut this anxiety. So Xanax came into my life, and I was taking that to the extent of really abusing the shit out.
I'm sorry to laugh. I should, but I know what you meant.
You know exactly. You're laughing because it's just it's so obviously like a remedy, and a lot of us go to. And it's like, and it makes sense. But for me, I went overboard on it because as you may know, and as a lot of people may know, the listeners, is that when you start those things with Xanax, you need more over time to get the same results.
Of course.
And if you go too deep, and you're dealing with a lot of trauma that you don't take care of in other ways, you start to forget you're taking it, and you're taking more. And then it becomes this horrible fucking. So I went through that for 3 years. And I had buddies that were intervention. They're like, dude, we're losing you again. Like, what the fuck is going on? And one day I just said, you know what? I'm stopping this shit too. And I went cold turkey. And what I learned later was I probably almost killed myself doing that as well.
Oh, shit.
Is that you're not supposed to quit benzos cold turkey.
Oh,
so what
that now is too much of a shock to your body. Yeah.
Those are the two that can kill you. And I did that cold turkey. I sat on a couch for 3 days, sweating, hallucinating, crying, pissing, puking, vomiting, all that shit. And then I came out of it on the other side, and it took a while for me to get used to being who I really was, which was like, okay, I got to deal with trauma now. I have to accept what happened to me. And so I went through that, and that was over the course of years. So I don't want to be too long-winded there, but what it took was like a lot of taking care of myself, getting into the gym, doing what I could do, eating properly, meditating, focusing on the things that were important to me at the time, and not getting too caught up in the wish-wash. So fast forward to now, I think it's been probably over fucking 10, 12 years since that's happened. And it's all really, truly a distant dream, like a fluttering memory. Just a small reminder of like I'd said in the tweet, like a shock up my spine from now and then from the nerve damage. You feel it. And I don't have the feeling on my spine. It's like my girl rubs my back or scratches my back. I can't feel down my spine. It's a weird sensation, but
that's weird.
Those are the small reminders of that I had been through. And now I'm a totally different person. Brain works perfectly.
That's awesome. But I think I think that's important here is, number one, you had the conviction to push and fight through. I had a friend in high school, his brother was in a really horrible car accident and had some paralysis and some other issues. And not only he, but his entire family gave up. And it was this home of just misery. I loved my buddy to death, but it was just nobody, because he didn't fight, nobody else did. And it was, they did, just all gave up. And it was like this miserable thing. And so I think you already had that fortitude, but I have to believe that going through that has made an incredible difference in anything you take on, right? Because I was fortunate enough to be raised that you can just try anything and keep trying anything. And if you fail, you can get back up and do it. Right? But I wasn't going through trauma. It was just me failing at business or projects or whatever. But for you, you're like overcoming incredible obstacles, coming out of it and overcoming another obstacle. I'm sure that has made a huge difference in kind of not something you apply every day, but it's something that's just there for you.
No, yeah, it definitely is. And I would say that it's something that I do apply every day. And I think sometimes it's subconscious as well. Like it's now been ingrained into what I do and how I treat people and how that reflects. And to me, I think it's a really good and important lesson from all of this. If anyone can take anything out of my story, is like, one, be really grateful for what you have, because that can disappear very quickly. and be grateful for the people that surround you and love you. Hug your mom a couple more times a day, because you never know when you're not going to see those people again, or when you might disappear. And the other thing is, like, to treat everyone in this world as a fellow human being. And you'll hear me say it all the time. Like, we're on this fucking big giant blue marble floating through space and God only knows how many miles per hour. And at the end of the day, it's a very small little world that we're on. We only have each other. And it's easy to lose sight of that because it's our own micro bubble. So love each other, care about each other, take care of each other, take a second to step back and think about how you're talking to people or treating people, and do it with compassion. And that's what I learned from that a lot. I had a really loving family growing up, so that helped with the whole kind of the hippie mom and stuff like that. But this really reinforced it for me, that if you keep positive intention, you stay driven in your conviction on getting better at whatever might be plaguing you at the time, like, you truly can fucking do it, and you will. You just have to truly believe it.
No, that's awesome. That's really amazing. I think it's a great lesson for everybody. I appreciate you sharing that with us. And and this segue is rough, but it's
no worries.
So look, but I think some of that fortitude, some of that spirit that you bring to the table obviously helped you with managing people and the chaos and the stress and the personality conflicts that happen. But there's also things that in the last few months have happened to the project as a whole that is, I got to believe, were really rough internally. And I'm curious what that was like when the liquidations happened and all of the clones really harmed the overall brand. We were talking about kind of the brand, and through no fault of the project, it harmed the brand.
Yeah.
Can you kind of tell us what was that like? And then as a team, how have you coped? Because my experience from the outside looking in at Olympus DAO is that despite all of that and some attrition of people involved in the project, I still see this sense of building and drive. So I'm curious how you guys all handled it, what you guys went through, and what you can tell to other people.
And I want to say that was so well put. And thank you for asking that question, Brad, too, because a lot of times with, like, when people face adversity in the space, and like when a project has some difficulties or something happens, it's easy for people to try to set them up and trap them. And I never thought that's what you were doing. This whole podcasting vibe has been fucking amazing. So super kudos to that. But that question was super fair. And it was like, and I love that. Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to touch on is imitation is the greatest form of flattery in a lot of ways, right? So like when you're doing something really cool and people see it's working, you have good actors that want to build on top of that and create something more with more innovation. And then you've got bad actors that want to take advantage of that and manipulate and exploit people. You're going to see like the whole entire the realm of those characters. They come out. And that's okay. And one thing and it's natural in this, especially in the blockchain, where they can just take your idea and fucking carbon copy. But one thing that was really important to the Olympus team when I was with them is that, and still is until this day, I can definitely echo that, is that we didn't want to focus or give attention to the negatives, regardless of the damage that some of these forks were doing by manipulating the initial idea behind what we were doing. We didn't want to even give them the spotlight. And it was difficult to try to keep that under wraps, because you put your life into this thing and you're working your ass off. And you give your genius, and then somebody just comes, snatches it up, shits on it. That hurts, right? That's an emotional human reaction. That fucking sucks. So, you get that side of it. So you have some individuals who are personally hurt, and you have to learn to remove yourself from that and go, okay, keep your nose down to the grindstone and keep building, keep shipping, or whatever it is we're doing at the time, and stay focused in the goal here, because the bad actors will wash themselves out, as we've seen, and the good actors are still within the ecosystem and building. So there's that side of it. So if I could say anything to that, it's just stay focused on you, stay in your own lane. And that's one thing that Olympus has done really well internally, from what I can say, because I've stepped away to take care of my kiddo. So I'm not really part of the project, and there's not a lot that I can speak there from a confidentiality standpoint. But what I can say is that everyone kept a cool fucking head. And the 9-9 degenerate over leveraging bullshit, a lot of us in that realm were very bearish on the idea of people being able to leverage up. DeFi, like, it's a degenerate realm, and there's a lot of people that have that gambling mentality, and you have to be so careful. So there needed to be, in hindsight, far more education around safe leveraging, if that's even so awesome we're on it.
Look, I think one of the things that was, and I'll let you get back to what you were saying, but I think one of the things that bothered me the most about it is, number one, we need tools that tell the impact of the leverage across lending protocols for each project, right?
Yes.
People need to be able to see this is the shit that's going to happen if this goes sideways. And so I think that's number one. And I think actually people are trying to address that to some extent in some of the people I've talked to about the problem. But the second thing is, and I think this is part of the psychology of the community, and I don't think it's something we all thought about before these things happened. But I think it's important as like the communications to people about that kind of leverage is you should understand that not only are you putting yourself in danger when you're leveraging, but you're actually putting the project that you believe in danger. And I don't think that's something that people connected until those things happen. And I'm not even sure that a lot of people that are full blown degenerates in the space who are just investing in whatever they invest in
Yeah.
care or understand it. But at the end of the day, what happened, those liquidations that happened were because people went too far with it.
Absolutely.
And I got to believe that, look, I'm sure everybody on every project that experienced that kind of a thing happening has said to themselves, could we have done anything differently? But at the end of the day, I think there's ways we can phrase it, we can talk about it, we can communicate about it that we will all learn to be better about. But at the end of the day, people made these decisions. And
Correct.
that's a lot of what we're about is you get to
Yep.
make those decisions and take those risks. I just think we need to get really good at making sure people understand that those decisions don't just impact and
No, you
they
nailed
can
it.
impact the whole thing.
Yeah, that really circles back to the education side of things and making it very apparent of the risks and the rewards. It's just like you see it and it causes something like that, and then you end up with cascading liquidation scenario, and you end up with FUD, or you end the psychology. I think is something that's not accounted for a lot when these things happen. And like
Yep.
people in the space, we're all a bunch of nervous cats in one way, shape, or form. It's shit's hitting the fan, and there's some diamond-handed, convicted people who are like die hard and they make crazy fucking plays, and they can afford to do that. But a large portion of DeFi can't afford to wait it out or to risk it or diamond hand it. And that kind of uncertainty and shaky paper handedness can lead to these cascading events. And that comes back to what you were saying is it needs to be educated. People need to be educated properly in this space of the risks that it can do to the protocol itself as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, you nailed it.
Did you feel like within the community of leadership or the DAO members that were actually actively working, was there kind of a point where everybody was like, oh shit, this is really bad? I don't know what I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to dig out anything personal here. I'm just trying to, how difficult was it for everyone when these things were happening to watch it happening? Obviously, that's a stupid question because it was hard. But at the same time, did you feel like it took a lot for everyone to climb back out of it? Was there a time when people were like shut down and then everybody dove back in? Or do you feel like people just were like, that's the shit that happens in DeFi, let's just keep moving?
Yeah, no, I'm actually really happy to answer this question because the truth of it, and no smoke up anyone's skirt or shorts or fluff, is that shit happens and shit goes south.
Yeah.
And I think a measure of people's character is like, how do you handle those situations when shit hits the fan? And I was pleasantly surprised. I wouldn't say surprised, but you just don't know how people are going to act when things go fucking south or something changes.
right.
It's drastic. And and I can say this with conviction, that every single soul in that DAO continued to work their ass off, even in the darkest hours, to try to turn shit around one way or another. There were the meeting cadences were kicked up. There was fucking 3 times as many meetings. Now, am I going to say everyone was cheery? Everyone in there is going critical mass. Shit is hitting the fan. Like, what do we do to correct this? Because we want to do right by the people that are involved. Like,
Sure.
it's our family. You don't want to fuck your family. So everyone,
not to mention everybody else involved has seen their net worth dramatically crash.
Totally. And like not a single member sold it from my knowing during that time. And it was just, let's fix this. And everyone's mind was in a collaborative, stressed out, because we're all human. It's one thing I'd like to do in this space is to humanize being a human. It's like we were all very stressed. Everyone's stressed trying to figure out how to fix things and make things work or adjust and pivot, but no one gave up and no one sat down and was defeated. So that was really impressive. So hats off to all the guys.
That's awesome.
For sure.
That's awesome. Look, and I think there's a knee-jerk reaction like, we got to do something different. We got to change everything. We got to pivot. I think that's everyone in their head thinks that. They may not have done it or said it, but everyone thinks, okay, I got to change something up because we got to show people we're changing things. But my impression was that the project just said, you know what, we're just going to keep plunging ahead.
Yeah.
Zeus made some announcements and there were some conversations, and you guys worked on a plan right away and just said, we are going to move ahead. We're not going to let this interfere with the mission. And to me, that was the absolute best way to handle a crisis.
Yeah.
It was like,
Yeah.
it was picture perfect crisis management. And when you put it up against Wonderland and the total lack of crisis management in that chaos, it's quite the juxtaposition. And sadly, a lot of the pain that people were feeling was indirectly a result of what was going on over there. Anyway, and so I was totally impressed with that. But I think the question becomes for you, how do you feel about where Olympus ends up in 2 years from now? Do you think it gets to being the reserve currency of crypto? And if you don't want to answer this question, I understand. I'm not looking for a gotcha here. Where do you think Olympus ends up? Because from my perspective, I see a really incredibly strong team bound together and continuing to build. But at the same time, it's hard to build when things don't immediately recover. And so I know there's like this downward kind of pressure on people. I'm just wondering where you see the project in the future. What do you think will happen for Olympus DAO in the future?
No, again, super happy to add my 2 cents, and I could be completely wrong too, and that's something I'm super happy to admit.
Cool.
All I know is what I experienced while I was with the team, and I think there is a lot of really brilliant individuals, some of the most brilliant probably in the space, that are working behind the scenes to try to turn things around or to pivot and to better things for the future. Whether or not that will come to fruition is entirely now in the hands of those individuals. Whether or not they can continue to battle through the socioeconomic issues that we see in the world, the bear market that we're currently fucking battling, all of this other shit that's working against it. Now, if they're able to continue to push through, which I believe they are, and it might not be the same group of people. The in and outs of DAOs is beautiful because there's new people come in and they're completely refreshed and ready to rock and roll, and they bring new ideas and shit changes. And that's
Sure.
what well could happen. And then some of the older thinkers might back out. I don't know. I can't speak for them. But what I can say is that I think that the team themselves have an idea of what they want to do. They have a lot of really brilliant people there. And if anyone can do it, I think they can fucking pull it off one way or another. It might not be the same damn thing that we see today. It might be completely different.
Right.
I would love for them to be able to make it because I've always seen their intention, which was like to do good. So I definitely feel that way.
And I think there's a reset, right? There's a mental reset that can happen with new blood coming in to the team.
Yeah.
And that is you've got a group of people who were investors, this myself included, who experienced those highs, right?
Yes.
And the ridiculous highs, and who now have an expectation of what was, as opposed to people that are coming in today who can say to themselves, wait a minute, this model still makes sense. The concept still makes sense. The team is still awesome. If I'm starting here, it's an up move. And if I'm in the middle of a bear market and I'm starting here, imagine with all of the good bones, everything that's in this project that's there, what could be later on. I definitely think that makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely. Are there any other things? And I'm thinking I almost feel like I need to do 4 interviews with you because I don't think we got close to tapping your wisdom from this experience. There's so many things I want to ask you, but it's already, I guarantee you my family's going to be knocking on the door for dinner soon.
Yeah, I'm so happy to come back anytime.
Awesome.
Like I really had a blast.
I think I might have to get you on. I have a daily show I do with a partner of mine where we just talk projects, news, degen shit, whatever.
Yes, sweet.
I think as things are in the news, it'd be really cool to have you come on and speak from your experience to some of those things. Anyway.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Please.
So you're taking some time off to have a baby.
Yes.
You're gonna get really good at one-handed typing, and you're gonna have one arm that's much stronger than the other.
I totally believe it.
I can tell you that I got so good at one-handed typing, man. Spam hopping back and forth.
I didn't even think about it, but that's great.
You're gonna be so good at it, dude. Because your wife is gonna pass out. You're gonna be up when the baby wakes up at night.
Yep.
Holding, and you're gonna be like, "What the hell am I doing, man?" It's gotta like be on the phone or the computer. Anyway, so expect that. But what's next after that? Are you going to be still engaged? I think you're involved in some NFT projects. What are you going to do next?
Yeah, no, I will not leave this space at all. I'm so bullish on crypto in general, and I love the idea of it, the freedom that it brings to a lot of individuals. But currently, for me, I'm an artist too. For those that might not
Oh,
know,
nice. I did not
yeah,
know.
so my first NFT project is called Apelians, and it was I just literally I was ripping a bong one night, as horrible as that sounds to probably some of our listeners, and I'm like, wait a second, there's a stoned ape, and then there's like aliens, but no, completely joking. But I was thinking, people ape in this industry, and then I love aliens. So like, let's just throw them together. And sure enough, I start drawing these. They're symmetrical, very psychedelic art. And I started to draw them and I put them up for 0.33 ETH for the memes, for the Olympus memes. And I was like, all right. And sure enough, the community starts purchasing them up. By the 10th one, I'm selling them for 1, 2, 3 ETH, and then they're going up
Nice.
in excess of fucking 6, 7 ETH. And these things
Nice.
start blowing up. And before you know it, I get through all 50 of my Gen Aplians, and I've done 105 ETH in traded volume, which is not a ton compared to some of these other projects. But for one dude in his room working
That's
marketing side of
awesome.
Memphis, it was a huge accomplishment because people always said I was an artist, but I never considered myself an artist. Weird
Great.
dichotomy. So that's Aplians is my project. I have one that I just launched, which is Aplians Larva. That's a generative one where I've done, it's a 8-bit pixel format, homage to the old school gaming days that I love so much. It's a really cool little project, and we're working on bringing it into an omniverse and potentially a game and a lot of other really cool segues to gated communities, alpha, all that stuff. But I really wanted to focus on community and the art. So that's what we're doing with Aplan. So anybody that wants to hop in, come join us,
Nice.
say what's up, easy vibes. Quick shill from Fatty.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I'm going to go check it out.
Hey,
That's great.
here.
Look, and I can see you having a role advising some projects, getting their shit
Yes.
together when they're launching. I really see that. I see that for you. There's so much good experience behind you, and I think there's a lot. I actually will probably ping you for a couple of projects I'm advising right now. So I think that makes
Anytime.
total sense. Listen, man, thank you so much for your time and for sharing so freely of your knowledge and your wisdom. I really appreciate it. I think it's going to be of great benefit to the community. And thanks for your time.
Hey man, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate you. And anytime you want to pull me up,
Oh, I'm
chat,
totally
shoot
going to
the
do
shit,
it.
I love it.
I'm totally
Thank-
going to make you come back on. I'll have you come on the Daily Show, and then we'll do another episode where we talk more through this.
Consider me signed up, man. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks, buddy. Have a great night.
You as well. Bye.
Bye bye.